Because I mean, the plus is you capitalize on the chanterelle's sort of apricot quality, but the minus is you got that sort of cellulose and fiber that's not kind of broken down by heat, and you might feel it. So.
What about storage or cleaning?
Yeah, there's a whole, a lot of folks say, you don't want to immerse your mushroom in water. Well, you know what? On our scale in a restaurant, I can't serve mushrooms with grits. And
yeah, you gotta wash those black trumpets.
I gotta wash those black trumpets. And that means they're gonna get wet, and what that means is they go into a nice hot pan, you cook out the moisture, basically they literally steam for a bit, then that moisture evaporates, or like with chanterelles, I pour off the juice that they exude, and I save that and I cook it down to like a syrup. And you just saute it till it dries out. But are you losing any flavor? Maybe, maybe not. But again, for what our purposes, when I get some filthy like morels, I mean, those little cones in there, they just pick up all the dirt, and especially the burnt sides, when they're covered in ash. You're gonna have to wash them, folks. So the whole thing of taking a little brush and brushing the mushroom, that's good and fine when you're home. But I don't want my guests paying X amount and come send the plate back because there's a little bit of grit in there. So.
Yeah, one of the things we always suggest, once upon a time we handle a lot of wild mushroom. We actually ship lots of mushroom tonnage to Europe, to Rungis market, and to Switzerland. And one of the things we suggest people to do with the mushroom, especially wild mushroom, is a lot of grit and dirt. Is in nature it rains all the time, so it depends on when you pick them. It's different condition. So I said it's very okay to even submerge them in water to clean it, but you just do it a few hours ahead and then air dry it before you cook. Otherwise, you would exude too much moisture. Then you're steaming the product rather than sauteing the product. So one of the things that we always recommend is you treat mushroom more like a meat than you do vegetable. So the high heat, the glutamate and all that would come out a lot better with a high heat. So like cooking a piece of steak with the char on the outside but raw gray in the middle. That is how you want a mushroom cooked, basically.
Just because they're talking right now about how they come from the wild. This is a mushroom. This afternoon I picked this one in the wild. This is an edible amanita. Amanitas are their notoriously deadly genus. There's many different amanitas. Some are poisonous, deadly. The most notorious one's the death cap, and that kills the most people in the world. This one is one that sometimes can look a lot like the death cap, and this one's totally edible. But I'm going to pass this around. You can see how dirty it is. I didn't try cleaning it or anything. This is what it comes like typically from the forest. It might be relatively clean, it might be relatively dirty, but something has to happen before it would get to Eric's restaurant if this is what he would be preparing. So.
Now the fact that David and I, that we don't use dirt to grow our mushrooms,
Yeah.
I actually tell people they don't need to wash, like the shiitake or the oyster mushrooms. And I'm assuming we don't need to wash yours either.
Yeah, we don't. We just
You just throw
don't
them
have to
in.
wash it.
But definitely the forest mushrooms, they generally need some washing.
I have one other. Well, I have a number of other mushrooms here. These are boletes here. You might have heard of the porcinis. These are manzanita boletes. These are actually more meaty and tasty, I think, but everyone's got a personal taste, than the porcinis. The Boletus edulis, this is Lexinum manzaniti. It's a different genus in the Boletus family, and it's very, very flavorful. It grows on the roots of manzanito bushes or trees. And if you know what a manzanita looks like, it has a very beautiful maroon color on its trunk. It's matched up by the cap of this mushroom. So when you see this mushroom growing under the manzanitas, you can say, oh, it's got the same color as that. You look underneath and there's no gills. There's a sponge layer, it's a bolete. And then if you cut the mushroom and you look at it, it has a white flesh that turns turquoise blue sometimes. And so that's a very easy way to characterize and tell, oh, I have the right mushroom. It's got the same color as the manzanita. It's growing under the manzanita. It looks like a nice big porcini, but it's an edible. And it actually tastes, to me, it tastes stronger and more flavorful, especially when you dry it, than a porcini does.
So we have our 2 final trivia prizes here. So if anyone has some really hard questions before we turn over to Q&A.
Oh dear.
Maybe, Ken, are there any mushrooms you think people have a hard time identifying that we have left here? Or?
What, does anyone know what this mushroom is?
The boy should know.
You know what this mushroom is?
Turn it over.
Come on up and take a look at it.
Carousel?
You're right.
This boy is 8 years old.
He's 8 years old. This is the shaggy parasol mushroom. It's one of the delectable edibles. It's one of the top 20, top 5 edible mushrooms that people like eating. This one it's saprobic, it lives on dead stuff. It's very hard to cultivate, so you won't see it cultivated until they figure it out for commercial purposes. But you can find this in the wild, and it's one of the 2 shaggies, shaggy manes and shaggy parasols. The shaggy manes are even harder to grow because they turn to ink very quickly, but this one, you can find it, cut it, dry it, and it smells just like freshly hulled pecans as a dried mushroom, so you can use it for more like nutty things. So, anyway, very good.
We have a mycologist in the making.
Okay, one last really hard clip, David.
No, I was
No.
going to say, we never have a chance to talk about the health food aspect of the mushroom.
Yeah.
You want me to go into
That'd be great,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. In our operation, we actually worked with a professor from Japan back in 1976 who taught us how to grow shiitake mushroom. At that time, in the process, he also grow what they call a mycelial biomass product, which is basically mycelium of different mushroom grown on brown rice. And then we dry the material into biomass and then make it into powder. So it's a very simple product. And so the rationale behind it is very simple. Like described earlier, that the life cycle is the organism is really what's in there. This is merely to express the spores, to regenerate. So they spend probably 90% of the time in this area. They extrude a lot of metabolites. So there's 2 kinds of metabolites. A primary metabolite, which is for physiological functions, digestion and growth and all that. And then there's a secondary metabolite, is for the immune system, defense. So when they live in a wild environment, there's a lot of competition. So bacteria, fungus, other fungus, and viruses and all that. So they have to excrete the metabolites to establish their population. So for us, we try to capture that and borrow that information to make it into a product that we can ingest. And basically, it's a informational system to pass on the information to us and how nature take care of those pathogens. And so what we call is the intercellular communications. So cytokines, neurotransmitters and all that. I think something in the mushroom actually facilitate that aspect. And so the caterpillar mushroom that you have been passed around is, we actually went up to the Himalayas in Nepal, and on our stomach we dig up this mushroom. So we have to actually go down to base camp at 8,000 feet with a helicopter, and then hike up to 15,000, back down to 13, then we found this mushroom. So we brought it back to California, and another group of us brought it back to Japan. We isolated the tissue material from the mushroom. It's a tissue culture, basically, which is mycelium. And we train it over many months to adapt the rice as the substrate. So we grow the mycelium on that. And then we look at some marker material, and they look very comparable to wild crafted material. And we've been doing this for 30 years. So we produce a lot of mushroom powder product that we sell to the health food industry to make it into capsule tablets and so forth. And it really is a very interesting material. as in a way you kind of look at it as a constant support of our immune functions. And so I think we get ill over the long period of time is because it's always a vector like bacteria infection, viral infection, depends on your genetic makeup also, and your environmental exposure that make you a healthy body or not so healthy. But I think something from mushroom actually help the body to cope with those challenges over the years. So if you don't take care of your body for a long time, you develop some problem in the future. So the difference between a allopathic medicine, the current Western medicine, and say Chinese medicine, the TCM, is allopathic look at symptoms. So really it's a disease care model. You don't see a doctor until you have symptoms. Some of us are good enough to have a physical checkup once in a while, but most of us only go to the doctor when we have symptoms. And usually it's too late. Chinese medicine, on the other hand, is they look at minute symptoms every day. You know, they look at your hair, they look at your color of your eye, skin, your fingernail, and say, you're too much heat, you need to take some watermelon. Or you have too much dampness, you need to take some meat or some stew, chicken soup. You know, so we take care of our minute symptoms over time, and that's really the true healthcare model. So we are what we eat, basically. So that is a much better way to lead a healthy life than going to the doctor. So eat more mushrooms. Costco.com, get a basket.
So we have one more question. Do we have our question or?
Yeah, I got a question. Okay, I'm a Darwinian student. I believe in evolution. So the question I have is a fungal cell closer to a bacteria or to a botanical or to a mammal?
Yes.
What do you think?
This was the first hand I saw.
It's true.
It's true. Yeah, congratulations. Veracocha, $50.
What is it's a eukaryote cell, true cell with a nucleus, whereas the bacteria they're prokaryotes. So if you have a fungal infection, it's very hard to deal with because they're closer to us. A bacteria you can do an antibiotic, but fungal infection is very tough to deal with. Stuck between your toes and all that. It takes a long time, or under your toenail. It takes a long time to get rid of them because they're so close to us. If we kill them, we kill ourselves too.
So we're gonna open it. Thank you so much. We're gonna open it up for some Q&A, and I know a lot of people have a lot of questions, so we're gonna try to do this. What's that? We are running late, so if you need to leave, we understand. There is a snack waiting for you at the end as you exit. We're gonna go for the next 15 minutes if you can stay with us. And this one right here in the gray shirt.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm very interested in the health benefits of mushrooms, and I'm curious about the process of growing in plastic and if any research has been done on leaching.
Can you all hear the question?
No, could not hear the question.
Okay, so the question is whether she's interested in the health impact from mushrooms and whether there's any health relation to the plastic or the plastic containers growing, whether the plastic leaches into the mushroom growing process.
Has any research been done, do you know?
Well, polypropylene is actually a very good substitute for polycarbonate. So your water bottle, it is polycarbonate, the Nalgene, that's a problem. So because with heat, they would leach out some, what do you call that? But with polypropylene, it's like in Canada, they forbid using plastic for the baby bottles, but
Checking out
they use a
bisphenol A?
polypropylene.
You're talking about bisphenol A?
Yeah, but the phenol, yes. So it's a mimic of a sex hormone, estrogen actually, which is actually a very good population control because the sperm count drops.
I would not advise it, however.
I have two questions actually, one related to production and the other about dried. So first, having the mushrooms in the containers versus the bags, does that also